How do you do?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Okie dokie, thank you. Let me get my
Good.
screen set up here. What I get? Okay.
No one else wants to join us yet. I'm surprised.
Well, we're still early.
Only by a minute. This is a show up early kind of crowd. So you enjoy the snow?
I'm enjoying the fact that we don't have to come to town hall for a meeting.
Hey, I
Yes,
have a quick question. Who who did your um geothermal?
who did my geothermal? An outfit in uh, K and W, somebody or other in, not local. Because there was nobody local who knew what the hell they were talking about
Yeah,
then.
yeah. I oh here they go. Yeah, I heard an interview on NPR with this woman, um, and they serve New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and I got an informational session with them on Monday.
And to know the name of it? I can look it up.
Daffodil, Daffodil Energy,
What is it?
Daffodil Energy. They only do geothermal.
Oh,
So yeah, I'm sort of intrigued.
I'll look up in the middle.
It gets lights on. Sorry.
Hey Nate, hey Isaac.
Hello. You're talking about geothermal?
Yeah, I uh I set up it. I heard someone on NPR who got interviewed, and they've got a like all they do is geothermal. They're based in New York and they serve Connecticut, Massachusetts. So I was asking Gail who did hers because I've got an informational call with them.
KW Management.
Say again?
KW Management.
That's a catchy name.
Um, see if I can get an address.
Where are they based?
That's what I'm trying to look up here. Oh, come on.
Michael, I think you might be referring to Dandelion.
Yes, Dandelion,
Geothermal.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're about a couple of weeks out from completing our system. We've drilled wells, we've laid the tubing, and we just need to have the machine installed and connected to the
Wow.
pipes.
And Dandelion's doing it?
Yep. Yep. They're
Cool.
based in New
That's
York.
all you need to know. There you go.
Okay,
Yeah.
if you don't mind my asking, like what? So also, did you guys? I can't remember if somebody on this in the ECAC sent this article or if I saw it on the Times, but there was a commute, like a whole street that was looking to do, like they're piloting like a whole street is doing
Right.
geothermal instead of
Right.
individual, like they're trying to do an entire street. Has
Yeah.
anybody read about that or?
Yeah, it's networked
Yes.
geothermal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
That works
and
great in high density neighborhoods.
Yeah, of course, right. Not here, but I mean, it's just
That's great.
exciting news. That's all.
Yeah, and it's totally logical. When you've
Yeah.
got one set of pipes and yeah,
So Nate, since I know you're like an ultimate researcher, you even make me look like a shoddy doing a shoddy job. I'm so thrilled that you did Dandelion. That's cool.
yeah, it's taken a long time. But part of that was negotiating wetlands proximity and making
Ah,
sure that we were taking the appropriate and necessary measures to address those kinds of issues. But I'm happy to talk to you about our experience so far.
cool.
And yeah,
I'll definitely take you up on it. I've got a call with the sales rep on Monday. So that's great. Well, why don't I call us to order? Since
there's
that's why we're
Miriam.
supposed to. Yep. And that's
Hello.
what I heard about. Hi Miriam. How you doing?
Good.
Great. So it is 5:03
It is.
and Gail confirmed she's minute taker. And looking at the lineup, Nate, you're next for next month. That's cool. Great. Cool. Want to just, I don't see any public, so I guess we could pass over the public comments. You want to just jump in? Everyone good with that?
Sure.
Cool. So we got a bunch of follow-ups. There's procurement policy, there's CCA, and then there's stretch code. I think are the three main follow-ups, and then we got some new topics. But I guess in the terms of the energy slash climate oriented procurement policy, we met with the select board last week. I was there. Gail, you were there for part of it. I think it was only the two of us, right?
Yep.
And so
Nate was there.
Nate, you were there.
I was
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, you were there. Okay. So for Isaac, sorry about that. For Isaac and Miriam's benefit, I mean, my general takeaway was the select board was interested. We don't have any standing procurement policy per se. We have some guidance around recycling and environmentally friendly products, or non-hazardous products is probably more accurate to say. And so we got tasked with writing something up that we can then bring back to the select board. So before going into our next step, Gail, Nate, did I get that right? Anything you want to update or share about that?
I was there also, and
You were?
yeah, I was, and
Oh.
I remember that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
we had a
well,
quorum.
Yeah, so I remember that that Becky was talking about, like, there was specific language that they wanted to strike as like must and
Right.
all that stuff. So I think it's just guidelines and how we want to go about framing the guidelines.
Yeah, that's a good catch.
I agree with all of that, and I think that part of the conversation is around, whether we frame this as a policy proposal, which I think probably would probably have a more binding character to it, as opposed to guidelines or just boilerplate language that is, part of our solicitation documents that we use for all kinds of purposes. Just making that language part of that template. It's not even a guideline or a policy.
Yeah, I mean, there was talk in the meeting about, yeah, this isn't going to make sense for some things, right? We're not going to have a battery powered, fire truck, right? But
Yes.
for the things that do make sense, like, I think it would be great policy wise if we were pursuing a policy to say, okay, if you are not going to go with the green option, we want to make sure you've at least explored the green option and document that, right? So, like, provide documentation of the green option and why or why not to use it. Like, this doesn't make budgetary sense. Like, give some sort of, like, instead of saying, hey, it would be great if we considered green when we're doing all of these procurement things, it'd say, well, let's build it into the process of procurement. Like, provide the paperwork of, these are, like, do the research, right? Like, I think a lot of it is like, they're just used to buying the same thing. So, like, let's go out there. Maybe there's a more fuel efficient and economical option, right? But you have to weigh the pros and cons. Well, this, there is another option, but it's not in our budget this year, and we can't wait to replace it. So this is why we're moving forward with this. But have a rationale and know that it's been considered.
That's a great point.
Yep.
Yeah. So a question I have, just sort of building on that, and what you said is, it seems like we can mix and match. Like, we can have a policy that says, to Eric Stocker's point, you must consider, and then also, I don't think there really is a template, but provide some process or documentation requirements that are more template related. You know what I mean? So that, because I think if we don't have a plug and play set of some things, it won't ever happen. Someone's got to cut and paste something. And then have a policy that I think gets to the point of, like, it must be considered, and if it's not followed up on, there needs to be some kind of documentation that identifies blah blah blah. Gail?
When I was at UMass, we had a contract requirement that if you, a requirement for how you choose for a contract. And the question was, what is this person's expertise in the field? If you choose this person or service, why? And if not, why not? But there's specific language about that that's broad enough. Let me go get that. I think I could still find. Yeah. Yeah.
It's somewhere on your computer at another point.
Right, but basically it takes your point, Isaac, of if you choose otherwise, give us a good rationale, give us a good reason why, and why our request doesn't work.
So in terms of building this out, I'm going to say Nate shouldn't do it because Nate's doing too much.
Say that again, please.
I'm suggesting that Nate doesn't write it since he's doing too much already.
Okay.
So I'm happy to give I mean, I think someone should draft something, whether it's the language and maybe, you know, a paragraph around a policy statement or something like that. And then we can come back next month and sort of, you know, comment on it. So I don't know, like, I'm happy if someone else wants to do it. Like, I mean, Isaac, sounds like you've been doing some thinking about it, or maybe Gail, you and Isaac want to team up, but, and I can be, we should just figure out who's going to take the lead and bring it back to the group, basically.
Well, I mean, so for like just to our Nate and my collaboration on the, on the stretch code stuff, like the FAQ,
Yeah.
we had a meeting an hour before this meeting and basically put it into a Google Doc and we were talking about it while we were formatting and I feel like taking the lead, like I think working together is probably easier, but if somebody wants to take a stab at a first draft, I'm happy to put my energy behind like a collaborative process. I don't know necessarily if I feel confident enough to sit down and come up with a first draft, but I think if I recall, there is documentation for the like what Amherst has in their, so like we could. I think it's like let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's start off
Yep.
from what's existing already, um, and figure out what language we could put in. I think my detriment in terms of lead would be I don't know how this process works already. I don't think anybody else does either. But at least, maybe somebody has
Yeah,
a little
that's
more
okay.
experience with how things should be formatted and how things would actually play in the real processing of documents at the town
Yeah.
level.
Okay, that's cool. I mean, I'm happy to do it. If no one else is, it's not, and you are doing other stuff. I will like a mini lesson in open meeting law, just, and this is my interpretation of it. So, you're not, what's clear is you can't meet outside of, if you have a quorum, you can't meet outside of a public meeting. So that's clear. The tricky part is subgroups. So subcommittees, work groups, task forces, they're all the same. Whatever you call them, they are a subcommittee. And subcommittees also have to comply with open meeting law.
Mhm.
And so what ends up happening is like, if we said Isaac and Nate are going to be a subcommittee working on X, and then you guys meet, if you don't post it and do all the open meeting law stuff, you're out of compliance. So what I've come around to doing, and we did a planning board, we sort of ran into this a few years ago, is that one person gets designated at the lead as a lead. And so a person is not a subcommittee by definition. And then that person is free to collect information, get input from other people to inform the process as long as you don't meet a quorum. So like Nate's taking the lead on CCA, it doesn't mean that he can't, or stretch code, it doesn't mean he can't reach out to you, Isaac, and you guys can't talk to each other. But we, as a committee, we've designated Nate as the individual lead. So he's never going to be a subcommittee. So it's like really quirky. I know I'll just, for transparency, Grace doesn't necessarily agree with me, but I think the planning board decided for expediency, that's like the only way to do it. But the normal real world solution of collaboration doesn't work in town government, which
Right.
is just
Right.
crazy making. So Miriam, Gail, did I get that since you guys are chairs? Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, but, so we're saying that you are the lead on this?
I think I'll be the lead.
Okay,
If I need to reach out to someone, I will, but I think basically I will come back in February with some attempt at a policy statement and then some language that will specify, either like what one would put into a procurement request, uh, some kind of specific thing about documentation, what would need to be documented if you choose not to go down that path, something like that. So, and enough that we can further this conversation. And then, yeah,
you said you'd take it to the select board? Would
no,
you,
take it to us.
to us, thank you,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. So we can take it to the select board when we're ready, when
right.
it's massaged enough. Uh,
Well,
cool.
I'll say I'd be happy if you wanted to reach out and consult with me as the lead on this.
Okay. Okay. You're learning so much about town government already. Is this fun?
You make it as you do it.
Yeah. It's all the stuff no one ever taught us in school. Um, it's just sort of crazy. So, so in terms, why don't we move to CCA? Um, and Nate, that would be you, I think, in terms of logistics. We've got the date. I mean, no, that's the wrong thing. You got feedback from people who you sent out the emails to, so I guess you want to report back on where that lands.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. So yeah, there were two things I wanted to tee up here, and one is this sort of longstanding question about um, municipal light plants and these, whether or not they you know having a broadband exclusive MLP would in any way disqualify Shutesbury from moving forward with um, uh, developing community choice aggregation. And so I reached out to Colonial Power Group because they have developed plans, submitted plans to the state, and shepherded communities like ours through this process before, including towns that have broadband exclusive MLPs. And
Which is
they're
this, I'm sorry, Colonial?
Colonial.
Okay.
Yeah. So their response is that Shutesbury is absolutely eligible to put together a municipal aggregation program, and that only municipalities that have electricity provided by a municipal light plant are ineligible.
That
They
makes
even
sense.
sent me a map, which I think I can forward around as an FYI um, to the full committee. But I know that that's not coming from a lawyer, but it is coming from an organization that has a lot of direct experience in this space. So I was greatly reassured by that emphatic um, response. So that was one thing that I kind of wanted to put to bed. And then the other thing is that
Can I jump in there real quick?
oh sure, yeah.
Just on that one. So I think common sense would reign on, sort of like that makes sense. That the whole idea is if you have an electrical oriented MLP, that would be problematic. Broadband, it's not the same space. Um, the problem that Don McNichol pointed out, like before town meeting, was just that statute doesn't differentiate. So it's really the practical experience. And I mean, what's interesting is what Donna had told us. I think her counsel was, because she didn't connect with DPU, just go forward and
Yeah.
proceed. So I think it's okay for us to basically, based on her counsel, going forward and having this as sort of collab corroborating evidence. If I get that word out. It seems like it's, we're in good stead. We can always get shot down by DPU, but it sounds like that's unlikely.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, you know, um, the worst thing that can happen is that we go through this process and get shot down. And that does represent, lost time. We're investing time and effort into this, but I think that's the worst case scenario, and therefore we should take full speed ahead. I would like to proceed and get this going.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just as as a committee, so that, like in that worst case scenario, if someone said, didn't you guys know like a year and a half ago? So I think just collectively as a committee to say, we're going to this eyes open, knowing that, someone at DPU could all of a sudden decide something counter to what the practical experience is, but based on our not being able to access DPU directly and using our best resources, it's a decision that where's a risk, but it seems like it really is not very particular risk. So does that make sense to people? Okay. So go
Do
ahead,
you
Nate.
want
I
to
cut you off.
do you want to vote for the record or not? Does it matter?
Uh,
No, never mind.
I don't think so. I mostly
Okay.
just wanted to raise it because I think like there's a shared responsibility of like someone saying, you guys, like it says in the law, it's black and white in the law. Um, but I think we did our best effort over several months to try to get clarity from DPU, and with Donna. And, we're at this point, for a variety of reasons, we have very little access to legal counsel. Um, and it didn't work when we were actively asking. So I think we're in the best situation we can be in where we've asked, we've waited, we've got it, we've got to find some practical expertise. And so I'm comfortable with doing it. I just mostly wanted to check in as we go forward.
Yeah, I would second with that, but also the fact that Colonial is willing to work with us with that information full aware, like I don't imagine they would want to waste their time on they're a public service, but also they're there to make the 0.001 cent per kilowatt for every erg of energy used in Shutesbury. So if they're willing to do it, I think the likelihood of success is pretty high.
Yeah, it's a great point.
So I think that brings us to part two, which is that we as a committee had sent out to the three consultants that provide this service. And I think that we've received all of the consultant responses that we can reasonably anticipate. So Good Energy was completely unresponsive. Both like with our outreach, with our list of questions, and then in every communication effort leading up to that, which I made several overtures to them to get a point of contact and to talk to them about whether they might be a good fit for Shutesbury. Mass Power Choice replied that Shutesbury is too small to be a good fit for the services that they offer. And they even suggested that we maybe get in touch with Colonial Power Group. So they are also the only group that responded, and I think they did so with some enthusiasm. And my personal opinion is I've been very pleased as a person who has questions about aggregation at every point of the way. My experience with that team has been positive. They respond within 6 hours to every email, and they were also very willing to loop us in among the towns that they already have active contracts with around legislative action that might bear on our decisions in the future. So, these issues around, responding to DPU's pace, the concerns that towns have about the approval of these aggregation plans, active legislation that would bear on how municipal aggregations are done in the future. They were very open to looping us into that. They're a great source of information. So I think they're good communicators, and um, I'm wondering if the committee is ready um, to consider, voting on nominating Colonial Power Group to the select board as, our our choice for shepherding the town moving forward.
People have thoughts on that?
Strong yes.
Yeah, I mean, they sent an 8-page document response to our questions, which was very thorough and detailed. And I think yes, and,
Yeah.
and the fact that they're the only only ones who would want to work with us. I don't know if we've got any other options.
But your point, Nate, I mean, this is consistent with how they've been dealing with us all along. This is not like a quick PR mask.
Yeah, the responses were super detailed, not just canned. Like they were very much like point by point, like some human being addressed those questions, especially in the Rex
Yeah.
area. Like they were very detailed, and I doubt that there are those kind of questions coming in on a semi-regular basis where it would be cut and pasted in. So
Miriam, you have any thoughts? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, cool. Well, I would agree too. So I think why don't someone make a motion to recommend to the select board, and then we can just talk about next steps, assuming that we vote in favor. So,
I would like to make a motion to recommend Colonial Power Group to the select board as the consultant that would shepherd Shutesbury through to cheaper and cleaner electricity through a municipal choice aggregation plan.
Energy broker?
I'll
Energy
se-
broker.
I'll second that.
okay, beautifully done. Any other discussion? Okay. Gail, how do you vote?
Aye.
Nate,
Aye.
Miriam,
I
Isaac,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So that passes. So I think for next steps, we can forward the information. I think one thing that would be helpful is maybe, Nate, if you just like write up a little document that basically documents what you did, so that you sent it out to 3, 1 didn't respond, 1 said we're too small and recommended Colonial. Colonial sent back a comprehensive response, that kind of thing, because I think it just sort of helps further the conversation really quickly. And maybe, since you know it, also identify the town, both the towns that the Colonial is serving, and then the towns that have broadband MLPs, just maybe with an asterisk or something, so it's helpful. Gail?
I was just gonna say that having a written document is important from the select board points of view too, for the record, for them as well as for us.
Yeah. So I think if once you get that, I think what I can do is forward that to Becky, and ask to be put on the agenda and get that into the queue. But I think it's great. I won't even say we're plodding along. We're continuing to stride. So we're getting there.
I
So
would- Oh,
Go
sorry
ahead,
to
Isaac.
interrupt. I would say also, like on this tip, it would be beneficial to understand, the constituency, because like in the section where it talks about what are the biggest factors in the prices that we can negotiate, one of them is, if you go in with other people, which was suggested if possible. So they've already made a contract, but it's good to know like when that contract is up and see like, okay, what would be the timeline? Is it a short term, a long term, if we wanted to get, but also like have it on our radar. So if we were going to make a contract, we want to make it with the limiting terms that would allow us to go into a larger group upon the next cycle of contractual like negotiations.
That's a great point.
But that would also rely on being invited or being accepted by that group.
I think
So
we
that's
could.
got, we might investigate well, Colonial might know, what is the process for that? I mean, we don't just show up and say, okay, we're part of you guys.
Yeah. So the other thing I'm just thinking is in terms of a document, Nate, if I could ask, is when we did the presentation about it, I guess it was last year, there was the whole timeline of how things progress. It would be great to sort of just take that with a little arrow, you
Yeah.
are here, so we could sort of identify where in the process we are.
A projected timeline, yeah.
Well, just in terms of like, there's all the different steps. So I am guessing the select board would say, so if we say yes, what's the next step? And what follows after that? Who's responsible for X, Y, and Z? So we've already got it written. We just have to sort of put ourselves in the timeline.
Oh, this is very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Gail, to your point of, can we be invited to the, the group party? With Colonial's help, just see like what the process, like, I don't know if individual outreach to the different towns that are in the collective to see, are they looking for more membership and what would
Right.
that process be,
But we know the end date of that contract, so we know when they would be revving up another. And we can have that in mind as a,
Exactly, that's what we want.
Yeah. And just as an aside, before we move on to the next thing, I got invited this weekend to a local energy advocate retreat that Darcy Dumont was pulling together. I just couldn't bear to go to a 3-hour Zoom meeting after like being on Zoom all week. So at the last minute, I was enjoying my snow day and didn't go. But I think there's continues to be organizing around how to expand the Amherst, Pelham, Northampton CCA model. So I was, I confess, I was going to email you guys and say, if you want to go, you should go. And I just forgot. But I told Darcy to keep me in the loop. So I assume as they roll out, if there's other opportunities to engage, just, I don't think there's any commitment to anything at this point, but just be thinking partners and potential future partners. So that's moving forward. It's just sort of an FYI. And apologies for not reaching out to you all. Yes, I often people say, how do you do so much? I hit my point on Sunday where I wasn't doing anymore. So, so Nate, thank you for taking the lead on this, getting us to where
Indeed.
we are. It's huge.
You got us
Um,
here.
Yeah, we're gonna name this the Nate Hurd CCA for Shutesbury.
I second that.
So logistics for stretch code presentation. So we got a date, February 26th from 7 to 8:30. So I guess Isaac, Nate, do you want to sort of get us up to speed about next steps and what we should think about or decide?
Well, I think one of the main questions that we have for the committee is whether the meeting should be in person, online, or a hybrid of the two. I think if there's an in-person option, that Chris Mason would make an effort to be there in person. I think he mentioned that as well, that the code consultant would prefer to be remote.
It's okay.
So that might lead you towards either a hybrid or a virtual get together. So I think when we did CCA, it was all virtual. That was virtual at the time. But I think that's one decision point. And then the other sort of moving piece is what kind of outreach we want to do in advance of the date, including the circulation of the FAQ that we're putting together.
Cool. Well, why don't we tackle them one by one? I mean, I'll just start off. I'm leaning towards virtual. Hybrid's just more complicated, and I think unless you have really superior technology, and I don't we'd have to do this in the school if we did it in person. And I don't know what the school has in terms of hybrid experience, but
Oh.
it diminishes the online experience if you're, if you don't have the right setup. So it seems like we would maximize participation, which is really what we would want by doing it virtual. And if we can pull in the number 2 guy, uh, so everyone can see and experiencing him. It seems like, you know, avoiding hybrid is probably a good thing just for this kind of information sharing. That's my 2 cents. I don't know if other people have thoughts.
Yes, regarding your concern about, oh, sorry to jump in. Um, being in the select board meetings and stuff like that, it seems like they have a pretty decent setup. Like they are hybrid, right? Like there's the owl cam and it like moves around and stuff like
Right.
that. So I feel like that might be an option if we wanted to go that route. Um, I think hybrid might be good, but I also on all online could be a thing too. So
Yeah.
Are all those bits and pieces exportable to the school? Can you just pick
Yeah.
up all that system and take it to a different location?
No, because I got a big, I mean, I don't know what the school has. I haven't been in there for a while, especially not with this. But I think, Isaac, the issue is like for the select board meetings, it's in town hall and they set it up and it's small. But the logistics of if we do, one, if the school has the technological setup, and if they do, then it's also a little bit more complicated because if you do Q&A, you want to make sure that the people who are asking the questions virtually get heard. It's easier to hear basically through the screen, but then vice versa, you have to bring a microphone to the person so the people online can hear. It just magnifies the logistics. Nate?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I went to one of the library presentations where we brought in architects, and that was in the school gym, and it was hybrid, and you know being there in person, it seemed to work well, but I can't comment really on what the experience was like being on the virtual side of it.
Hmm.
So, I mean, my expectation is it's it might be if you're in person, maybe it's good, but maybe not quite as good if you're kind of in a
Yeah.
little box. Yeah,
Do you know if that was recorded? If it was, we'd see it from the virtual point of view, right?
it's a good point. I do not know the answer.
Yeah. And I was a person too. I think when you're a person in those kind of settings, it's like you're getting that in-person experience and you've got these people sort of floating.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
I think, especially for the stretch, so there's the technology part and then there's sort of the political part that, because there there will people coming who have legit like concerns, like, there's passion about like, what's this going to do to me or whatever. The more we can minimize people feeling like they're not included. So if everyone's equal, everyone's on the screen,
Mhm.
if you can get online, they're seeing and hearing things with the same quality. Um, it seems like that it just is, it's better setup. Gail?
I was also thinking that with the virtual setup, you have access to slideshows. And this is not going to be see the pretty picture kind of presentation. It's going to be, do you get the information kind of presentation? So slideshow with nice, clear information might be very much to the point and better received on Zoom than it would be in person.
Right. It's also, and if we record it, all that stuff will be incorporated, which I think record, another here, Isaac, here's another town government lesson. No matter what you do, no matter how thoughtful and persistent you are, someone's going to say, I didn't know.
Yeah.
So making the information available over time so we can refer to at post and recording, it's just helpful if it comes to a town meeting vote. Um, so I think if it's okay, I mean, I've sort of been leading this, but if it's okay to go virtual, maybe we just decide on that as a decision point and plan accordingly.
Motion to vote on that.
Yep.
No,
Okay.
I think we just make a decision. Seems like no one has any strong objections.
Right.
So, and what was the second one? You had two
Out-
things. You
Oh,
Outreach.
yeah,
outreach, right?
it's
Right.
outreach and the FAQ. So I think if we are going to have another ECAC meeting, say within 2 weeks of the actual presentation, then that would put us in a good spot to finish up the FAQ, circulate it to the committee, get feedback, and then
Right.
present it for finalization at our next meeting. I think that was Isaac and I both were like wanting to make sure that the logistics of that was sensible.
So the two of you would work on this between now and then, and at the meeting, at our next meeting, or the meeting before well, that would be the next meeting.
It would be
Yeah, it
the
would be
next
the next
one.
meeting.
So you'd present that, and we'd take a final vote on it at the next meeting?
Yeah, before sending it out to the.
Yeah, and putting on the website, okay.
Do you all, not to jump into dates, but if we did February 6th as opposed to February 13th, would that work for you all? I'm going to be in Philadelphia on the 13th, and I'm already doing my planning board from a hotel room. I don't want to do an ECAC meeting from a hotel room too.
You don't, really? Okay,
And I can if we need
Yeah.
to.
you're suggesting February,
6th, a Tuesday.
That works for me. I have a hard 7 o'clock, so I'd probably have to be out by 6:45. But if we
Yeah.
start at 5, I think we should be fine.
Yeah, I think we probably won't even we'll shoot for like
February
6:30.
6th. Tuesday, the 6th, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
cool. Mira, does that work for you?
The 6th,
Yeah,
yes.
cool. Great,
at 5 o'clock.
correct. So why don't we plan on that? And if we plan on that, then your plan about FAQ development works. Working backwards. And I think, you know, what we did for CCA, which I think we would, and for something else prior, you know, we've done the town announce. So I think we should definitely do outreach on the town announce. Then it's a matter of, do we send it out as to save the date, you know, in the next week or two, and then send it again with the FAQs as a link as it's coming up? You know, so we could do 2 town announcements, or we just wait until like February 8th or something.
And a page of FAQs on the website? As
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, that would be great. And Gail, I'm assuming you could take the lead on the town announce if it gets written up for you.
Yep,
Isaac and Nate, do you guys want to just do the little town announce blurb that you can get to Gail so we can cue it up? Great, that would be good. And so in terms of the proposal of sort of sending out 2, one is to save the date, and then a second one after we've got the FAQs lined up. Does that seem like okay, cool.
Maybe in the save the date, we can mention an FAQ to follow.
Yeah. Cool. We're a well-oiled machine, I gotta say.
but also to explain what the thing is all about. I mean, stretch code, what does that say? Zip, nada. So why would you come to a meeting for something you don't have that first clue about? You know, so that in addition to just announcing the date.
New complex
Something to-
building codes.
I What?
Look before you leap.
Yeah, really. That's good.
These might impact you if you're planning to build a big extension.
It's
The
a real.
How about just the Conservation Commission's out of control with your electricity? That will get people to show up.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
what's the clickbait headline, right?
Yeah, right. Just say,
will leave it to you guys. I think, but definitely, I think the point that they don't understand, people won't understand. I mean, just for my information. So when we're doing the update to the select board, I don't think we were even referring it to the same thing. So like, there's the specialized stretch code, which is what I think they called it in the official tech, uh,
Standard.
state versus,
Standard?
so it's like,
Yeah.
well, there's a standard which we don't apply. There's a stretch code, which is green communities. Then there's a specialized stretch code, which is what we want to opt in for. So I
Right, but
think,
it's referred to, and Nate pointed this out, like it's referred to differently in different places, so we have to be consistent in our verbiage. It's like opt-in specialized stretch code, I think would be, you know, it'd be good to kind of focus on like this is not already
a
done.
mandatory.
We're voting on this now. This is what we're meeting for, right?
Yeah.
And that was clear the way you presented it, select board. That language made those distinctions very nice.
Yeah, I would agree. The opt-in is a really good way to lead.
Yeah. Yeah.
As
Otherwise,
opposed-
you can't make me do it.
Right. The done deal stretch code, I think, would really be a seller.
The what?
The done deal stretch code. So, okay, cool. So we got outreach, we got virtual. I keep spacing. There's the third was the FAQs we built into that, so we're good. Great. This is just humming along. We'll see how it goes. I gotta say, just wearing my planning board hat, town meeting is going to be dense in the spring. There's gonna if we get this organized and move it forward, there's going to be a lot of stuff. We'll see. Maybe this will fly through again, and Nate and Isaac will be like, we're 2 for 2 in 2 town meetings. We got easy stuff. So moving on. Oh, we were just about on time too. This is really cool. So at 7:45, at least I'm going to meet with the FinCom. I'm guessing some of you can't, which is totally fine. But I thought we should just check in. So I finally got their attention. I think the select board will be there as well. But these are the regular FinCom meetings to talk about budget development. And AJ and Rita both know what we're talking about. So what I wasn't even going to propose a solution necessarily. I was going to basically identify the predicament, which is that there's climate and energy initiatives that we talk about that the town should be taking first steps on, but we always get tripped up because we're never in the ready mode. We haven't ever done that initial documentation process work that any state grant requires us to have. And so we're losing out on opportunities for funding because we haven't made town investments. And so there needs to be some kind of ongoing annual commitment. I can imagine a revolving fund, just like we did with the library, where every year we put 25 grand into the library fund. I don't know how much they would want to do. That seems like a good solution, but I think I would rather just say this is the predicament. If we actually want to deal with energy issues and climate preparedness, we've got to do something. And the town's got to put some money behind it, come up with some organized way, because we've now spent the last year and a half sort of seeing things come up and realizing that we can't even apply because we don't have the documentation that's required. So does that capture sort of,
Yeah.
if I say that at all is
Yeah.
correctly representative?
Yeah.
Anything else anyone wants to add that I should make part of my spiel?
Well, I guess, I don't know how it worked with the library. I guess it's just for all costs inclusive of the library. Like when you're talking about going to the select board and saying we want to have an aligned item of like X number of dollars per year put away to this cause, should be good to say like this will be used for X, Y, and Z, because I'm sure that FinCom's going to want to know where that money's going to go.
Well, it's a good point. So the way I would imagine it works is that the select board would control the money. And so we would make a request to release it. So rather than sort of say, here's the purpose, it's sort of, generally speaking, it's for climate and energy initiatives that ECAC recommends. Especially the select board has sort of got the big picture town interest at heart. So if they say it's good, then they request the money. Gail,
The dollar amount, but the purpose is to be able to hire the engineers or whoever it is relevant to make the assessment, to show need.
well, yeah, it could be. It could also be something else that's readiness oriented. So I don't even know what the example is, but like, just say at the school, right? We're, we're looking at investments. Maybe we had to install something that costs $5,000 in order to then apply for a grant at $100,000. But until you got that $5,000 widget, you weren't eligible to do it. So I think it's all the preparatory stuff. So it's a leveraging thing.
It's make ready stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that, to Michael's point, maybe make it not as, make it vague so that way it doesn't pigeonhole
Right.
us into saying, oh no, that's not for that. That's, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not, and beyond that, I'm not sure if this is a town meeting. Like, if we create a revolving fund, I assume the town meeting has to create it. So, what you don't want to do is have town meeting vote on something and then it's not aligned with the purpose and the need. And then you have to sort of, the money's sitting there, but you can't access it because it's a little bit tweaked. So we just have it general enough. Gail?
But in the funding, the revolving fund document doesn't talk about what is needed. It's just which committee has X dollars. That's all.
But in the town warrant though, is there not, like you just give it a name? Okay.
It would be an amendment to the standing chart by adding ECAC X dollars.
Okay.
And they will ask, of course, what's the money for? What are you gonna, and you better have a good answer at that point, but it's not like it's, to Isaac's point, you're not gonna get nailed to something so specific that we can't deal with it.
Right. Since I assume they'll, well, let me ask you, is then, there's no pressure because I have no expectation, but is anyone else going to join me
I'm fine with
tonight?
it. Yeah.
Gail, you're going to be there. Great. Okay. So, exception of Gail, like, does anyone, if they ask, how much money do you think you need on an annual basis? And
What are these engineering assessment studies costing?
it sort of varies. Like, I mean, when we did the
10K,
looking for
20K?
I think for the solar, assessment for like what each building could handle and how it would be designed, I think that was maybe like 5,000 or plus. But my sense is if we did some stormwater related thing, maybe it's more expensive. $10,000. If we did $10,000, that would be cool. And then if we don't spend it all, it rolls over. It's a revolving fund. So
But
next year,
I was gonna
hopefully-
say, it's gonna be accumulating. You don't need to cover the full cost in 1 year's allocation.
yeah. So I'm thinking 5 or 10 is probably
75, 100?
okay. And I'm sure they will ask, and I'm sure they're not going to.
Well, they'll ask, how'd you come up with that figure? Or they should ask.
Right. Deep thought. I mean, I think it's based on our experience just looking at consultants, but we didn't look very deeply because could pay for it.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Well, that's good. So the next thing is we talked about if ECAC wants to have a position on the wetlands bylaw, which, we couldn't show up on the warrant because it got printed, but we could share on town meeting floor if we wanted to. So I guess Miriam, just want to set it up and then we can sort of talk about it
Wait.
if we want to do it. But
I'm sorry, what? Say it again.
So we had talked last month about if ECAC was going to have a position on the wetlands bylaw. And so, last month we didn't have the ability to come to a decision, so it didn't get printed as such. But we have the ability, if we wanted to, on town meeting floor to say, the ECAC supports passage of the wetlands bylaw, however we want to frame it. There's the current controversy about the legal stuff. But generally speaking, so I don't know if we have a position, but I thought maybe if there was, since you're wearing multiple hats, do you have a request of ECAC in that regard?
Well, I think the more town support, the better. I think that there will be an amendment proposed on the floor. And, there's going to be a meeting this Thursday at 6 o'clock with a Concom. I believe the select board is going to join us. But, just in a nutshell, the concerns that were raised about a sentence, actually 2 sentences in the bylaw, were posed to Attorney McGregor, and I just like in the last hour got an email back, which, I essentially am interpreting to mean he agrees with the Smart Solar Shutesbury's counsel. And I think just to add some context for this was, in my opinion, kind of a telephone game where we got some legal feedback from the law firm and we made some edits. And then Mr. McGregor was looking at an earlier version,
Oh, boy.
didn't see our edits and added a new comment. And we thought, so there was a sentence that we took out because his law partner told us to take it out. And then he looked at an earlier draft and said, oh, it's still in. Why are they refusing to take it out? You better change it. And then in the middle of the public hearing, we got this information sort of given to us by the town administrator. We were really caught off guard and didn't have an opportunity to really reflect. And we were under pressure because we were told we had to approve a final version that night of the bylaw and send it on to the select board for the next day. So we did it on the fly and did the best we could, but it made a mess because the sentence now contradicts the rest of the bylaw and basically says, in essence, the way people are explaining it to me, you can't issue a permit unless the applicant writes the permit themselves, basically.
Yeah.
They have to approve every condition, or else you can't put any conditions in at all. And if you're going to do that, then why even have a conservation commission?
Right.
People could just do whatever they want. That's not how it works. So that was never our intention. We didn't really understand the ramifications of that. There just wasn't any time to think that through. And I think that the best approach is to delete that sentence as we did in the original edit and as we were advised to. It's a sentence that's not in the MACC model bylaw. I'm not wedded to it.
Cool.
So I'm hoping we can fix that.
Great.
We can't fix it until next Tuesday, though. You can't change the warrant because it's too late. So the warrant is up, and then on the floor, either somebody, I don't know
For
who, is
amendments.
gonna make an amendment and hopefully not confuse people too much. So I have to figure out how to
Strike
make
the
this-
sentence.
just
Yeah,
strike the
I know.
sentence and reassure people that striking it isn't going to weaken the bylaw or,
That's exactly- yeah.
make us empowered to do something terrible.
Sorry.
Does that answer your questions?
Yeah. So I think,
Oh, he just disappeared. Where's
Ah.
he going? It's like flying Isaac.
yeah.
Go
So,
ahead.
My thinking is, if ECAC thought, that the wetlands bylaw is something that's important in terms of climate related issues, that being able to have another committee step up and say, you know, as the committee that's supposed to be thinking about energy and climate issues, we think this is helpful to have. That that's just one more supportive voice. So, I mean, personally, I think that would make sense, but I think we need to, this is something we definitely have to vote on. So Nate, I see you nodding.
You know, that's just like I'm following the conversation.
Okay, okay. Gail,
I really think that our issuing a committee statement is not appropriate. And I
okay,
went back and checked previous town meetings. And the only time that, apart from the FinCom, which has to support any of the financial dealings, the only time that another committee supports a warrant article is the Community Preservation Act. So a specific project will be proposed by the Open Space Committee, and that the Open Space Committee will support that. Or there'll be a project supported by the Historic Product Commission, and the Historical Commission will support that project. But that's in terms of the formal approval of the committee. And I think what you're saying, what you're talking about is more a popularity contest or a I think that the bylaw should stand on its own merits. And that it shouldn't, the vote on the bylaw is going to be individuals anyway, not committees.
right.
And I think it's not, I'll just stick with that. I think it's not appropriate for a committee to come forward.
Can I just clarify something just because I'm interested? When you looked at the past town meetings, what I heard you say was that with the exception of, you know, the select board, the FinCom or the CPC stuff, that from a practical perspective, no other committees come forward like in support of, like, you know, it's usually like FinCom recommends, select board recommends, but no other committees are usually recommending. Is that what you were saying?
Except in the case of the particular committee that's involved with the project, yeah.
Yeah. Mira,
Yeah, well, it's a little confusing what you're saying, Gail. I mean, I understand that maybe that's the culture in Shutesbury or the past practice, but I don't think it's precluded. I know that the usual practice in other communities for new bylaws for wetlands protection is soliciting comments and feedback from other boards whose jurisdiction may overlap or have a nexus to wetlands protection during the public hearing process. So, you know, asking for board comments is certainly, I think, within that spirit. And if the comments didn't come before the public hearing was closed, I think they could be offered during a special town meeting.
I guess the other thing is, based on this flow of the conversation, is rather than coming out and saying ECAC supports the wetlands bylaw, ECAC could say, based on our understanding of climate challenges and risks, we think that we need to have strong regulations that protect against flooding and stormwater, et cetera, more generically speaking. You know, the logic would be that if one thinks that's the case and this bylaw is in front of you, that maybe you would consider supporting it. But rather than sort of supporting a particular vehicle, it's talking about the importance of the issue. And again, we don't have to do anything, but I wanted to make sure that we didn't just not do it because we didn't discuss it. Miriam, are you raising your hand again or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just also add that, you know, looking at what your charge is to make recommendations to the community and to the select board about the municipal vulnerability plan and the hazard mitigation plan, which talk about strengthening protections for stormwater management and, you know, other aspects of open space preservation. And here, this bylaw does that. That is the purpose of wetlands protection bylaws, is to offer protections around these things that are not offered under state law. I've said enough. I'll
Yeah.
stop.
Isaac, Nate, do you have any thoughts you want to chime in on?
I'm not sure. Yeah, you know, I understand, looking at sort of past practice, um, and wanting to sort of, respect, um, sort of how, committees have typically functioned in the past. But I also like very much see the overlap of sort of this committee's charge and what the wetlands bylaw is seeking to achieve. So I feel like very open to like different ways that the conversation could go. But I think if we were to vote on it, I mean, I would kind of lean towards endorsing, either a generic statement on like the principled importance, which is to have strengthened regulations on wetlands protection. And then, maybe even like, I feel like because there are moving pieces to the document, there are conversations that are still like taking place. I don't know if it makes sense to have that vote tonight, if there is another ECAC meeting before.
There won't be.
There won't be before the new.
It's next
Okay,
week.
'cause it's next week.
Next Tuesday, yeah.
Can I make a suggestion?
Never mind.
Can I make a suggestion? Because, it does get tricky if you were to say, we vote to support Article 3, but Article 3 may change. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. I would say,
Right.
make a statement about general principles that if you think that having a strong wetlands protection bylaw in 2023 is part of your charge, then say that.
24.
2024. And then it's going to be up to, those amendments and that discussion to figure out what that bylaw is going to look like.
And where would such a statement be made?
Well, I think you could make
On the-
it during the discussion.
I think it's just
Somebody-
doing it on the
somebody-
floor.
Somebody could make it, somebody could be tasked with making it on the floor.
Yeah, I think, I mean,
Boy, I really object.
yeah, yeah. I think my sense is, given this conversation, since we have good committee cohesion, just generally speaking, maybe we shouldn't take a committee position, but I would say, like, I mean, I know I want to support it on the floor, however I do it. So I think we can just speak to our personal situation, so, I mean, it's factually, I'm on ECAC, and factually I'm on the planning board, but I'm not representing them, and I also live in town, so this is my opinion based on that experience. I think adds credibility without having the validation of a committee.
Yep.
Because you can't speak for a committee.
That's a good solution, because any of us could stand up as an individual and say, this is great, there's such an overlap between this work and blah, blah, blah. And without a statement in the name of the committee.
Right.
I think that's really what
Okay. So I guess I would suggest, we not take a position, just given the conversation, but that if individuals want to do that, like I said, I know I'm going to do it. So at least, and Mira's got to wear other hat, but but this is helpful. I mean, if nothing else, we should all show up.
I'm coming in my combat gear hats
Why do you think
and a hazmat suit.
I can't believe there's going to be a lot of opposition.
Oh,
It's been
Oh.
a brutal 18 months, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I feel like there's cohesion, but the last bit of drama just sort of gets in the way even. So everyone's trying to interpret stuff. It just is unfortunate. So segueing into
Please don't put the hazmat suit in the minutes, though. That
Oh,
was just
strike
like,
that. Okay.
that was just like a personal aside about my fashion sense. Not really relevant to this
Oh.
meeting.
God. So Miriam, it's up to you, given all that's going on. Do you want
Yeah,
to push back the Resilient Lands Management website until the next meeting?
love
Or do you
to.
want, okay, that's, I was sort of guessing that would be the
Push
case.
back.
Okay, so we'll talk about it next time. So all we've got is approval of the minutes of October 27th, which Miriam got us.
Yes.
And then minutes of January 2nd from last week. So, did everyone got copies of those?
Yeah, I got edits back from Nate and Gail.
Great. Okay.
And I
Um,
added, because it wasn't on the minutes, I added a document list.
Oh,
Cool.
good.
Because there needs to be a document list at the end.
So that
Okay.
was October
27th,
27th.
23. Yeah. So is there a way, Miriam, just showing us what the edits were? Or can you-
Well, I
Were
can
they
try.
massive?
No, they were, Nate, hold on, give me one sec, I'm just,
We can just do it as edited if they're small. I just wanted to ask.
well, Gail just had a couple little tiny grammatical things. Nate added some additional content about the letters, the substance of the letters,
Oh, good.
that were sent to the legislature, not really, just more detail than I had gone into, which I think was good.
Mhm.
And that's all.
Great. Okay, cool. So someone want to make a motion to approve the minutes of October 27th as amended?
I would like to move to approve the minutes of October 22nd as amended.
Cool. Anyone want to,
I'll second.
great. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Isaac, how do you vote?
He wasn't there.
Oh, he wasn't
No.
there. So you abstain.
I abstain.
No, he just
Okay.
doesn't vote.
Nova.
Why can't he abstain?
Abstain means you hold your vote. He wasn't there. He can't. Never mind.
But he's
Whatever.
here now.
Okay.
He's present. He has to do something. Miriam, how do you vote?
Hi.
Nate,
Aye.
Gail,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So we have 4 ayes. We'll figure out if Isaac's an abstain or nothing.
Okay.
So, and then for the minutes from last week, January 2nd, 2024, I didn't get any comments back, so we just do anyone want to move to approve those minutes?
Wait, what?
January 22nd, did you send me edits?
Yep.
You did?
Minor?
Okay. I don't think I saw them, but I'm sure they were good.
They
It's,
were probably picayune.
yeah, yeah. So why don't we just, someone want to move to approve them as amended?
Oh, it was a correction of a date. Or maybe not. So in discussing the informational meeting on the stretch code, are we going to give folks the requirements as of January 2023 or 24?
Say that again?
So regarding the presentation of the stretch code, we're going to lay out what's required by the stretch code now and what changes would be made if we were to go for the opt-in, right? But our current requirements as of January 23 or January 24 is the question. Were they instituted in January 23?
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
answer. This is January 2023. Yes. Yes, that's correct.
That's when they were promulgated?
The current stretch code that Shutesbury is subject to took effect in January 2023.
2020?
2023.
a year ago.
Michael, I have to interrupt. I've got to sign off because I have to be somewhere in a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm sorry to leave early. I will see
Vote
you
aye.
guys next. All right.
See you, thank you.
That was the only
Adios.
question.
Yeah,
Okay.
bye.
I'll clarify the wording to say that was established in January 23.
Great.
Okay?
Okay. So someone move to approve as amended?
Move to approve amended votes or the amended notes for the January meeting.
Okay.
Okay. And
I
any
will
second?
second.
Great. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Isaac, how do you vote?
Yes.
Nate,
Aye.
Gail,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, unanimous. So now we just have to get a motion to adjourn.
I had a question about adding something to to the plan for the next meeting.
Yeah, the agenda.
The agenda, yeah, that's the word. It'd be cool because I've seen a couple of emails back and forth in the like to the ECAC about the charging stations. Like, is that something we're going to
Oh,
talk about
Ah.
in a group or anything?
that's good. Let's see. Well, why don't we just I can give you the quick update, and I guess we put it on the next agenda if there's stuff to report. But I mean, basically, the last week of December and in December, Becky got, I think, out of the blue, offer to install a charging station at one at
Two,
the
right?
library. Yeah, one at the library, one at the town hall. And it's basically gonna be free of charge, was the equivalent of like $400,000. This vendor is like, there's approved vendors through National Grid. This is an approved vendor. And they basically had something that the town had to sign. We had to do it ASAP. And so Becky brought it to the select board. I think it was that January 2nd meeting, where it was discussed at the select board. And what I mean, I made some comments, but the select board was, I think, we're in alignment, which is that we don't know enough. We don't want to commit the town to it. It seems good, but there's always that, if it seems really good, what's the issue? This particular vendor is based, I think, in Schenectady, New York. It only serves New York currently, so they don't really serve Massachusetts. Nate had done some research in terms of, there's all these systems and they all have their apps, and they're all, you have to pay for it and stuff. And so in my mind, I sort of think about the olden days of ATMs where you had all these different competing networks, and if you weren't in the network, you got charged. I feel like it's the same kind of development. Eventually it'll all become one giant network, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
And then there's the support. So I think the bottom line was the select board asked Becky to do some more research into other vendors from National Grid,
Right.
find out a little more like about people who these folks serve. We like the idea. Getting it for free is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we were trying to say no, and it wasn't a contract, but so the question was, if we sign this, what are we committing to as a town?
Right.
Um,
Well,
so
one thing.
Consequences appeared pretty iffy. I mean, there were, Eric brought up some pretty interesting points about what happens if this and what happens if that, and it's not spelled out. So like, to your point, Michael, what are we getting into here?
Well, also, just on a personal note, I help like sponsor graduate students to do driving tests at the Greenfield RMV, and one of the instructors I got to know, and he was commenting on they have two charging ports there, and I never made note of the actual branding of them, but he said that the quick charge port that they have, every other week somebody's coming down there replacing like a chip or something like that. So there are like probably technical issues that we might want to become aware of, like especially if it's someone in Schenectady that's not going to service it. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah, that's. I mean, I think there's general interest in supporting this, just supporting
Yeah.
the right one once we've got a
Right.
little more data. So
Right.
I think we could. I mean, what's nice is the select board asked what we thought. We got pulled in. So I do feel like as a committee, we're now actually a resource to the select board, which is what the intent was. So that's good. And we just have to keep, doing our research when they reach out to us or get ahead of the curve if there's something we want to propose. So kudos to us. I think we've established credibility.
And frankly, the quick, we've got this great deal, but quick, you gotta sign up, just,
Right.
it puts my back up right off the bat, so.
The hackles are up. Like, yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you tell us earlier unless you didn't want us to have enough time
This
to do some
offer's good only
research?
24 hours from now, let's go.
Yeah, the pressure buy. Yeah, it's like it's not going to be free tomorrow. It's free today. So yeah.
Exactly. We'll take 10. So I'll make a note to put it on the agenda, but I think that covers it for now.
Cool.
So anyone want to move to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Isaac
Motion to
already did
adjourn the
that.
meeting.
I don't know if we did.
Okay,
Motion to
Anyone
adjourn
sec-
the meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, anyone second?
second.
Okay. I'm assuming there's no discussion. So Isaac, how do you vote?
Yeah. Aye.
Nate,
Aye.
Gail,
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Okay.
So we are officially adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
See
Good
you on
meeting.
February 6th.
Yep,
And I'll see Gail. I'll see you later.
yep,
All right.
Okay,
Yes. Bye.
bye.
and see you Tuesday,
What's Tuesday?
special town meeting.